Court members and are present with the exception of Commissioner Cantrell. All legal notices have been posted and the court is duly called. Is there a motion to open court?
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Bailiff, please open court.
All rise. Dallas County Commissioners Court is now in session for the April 2018 term. Honorable Clay Lewis Jenkins presiding. Please remain standing for the invocation.
And our invocation today will be given by a guest of Commissioner Price.
Judge, Commissioners, audience, we're very pleased to have with us Afrolyn J. Roberts. Afrolyn is a versatile performer. She's a choral director and vocal coach whose work includes TV and film. Partial listing of her accomplishments: she's the artistic choral director for the South Dallas Concert Choir. She's teaching vocal and choral instructor for 6 DISD schools and 1 Garland ISD school. She's done music and stage directing. She has done plays like Ain't Misbehaving at Northwestern University and Kalamazoo Civic Theater. She's staged opera, Mother Abbas, The Sound of Music, Barbara Jordan, The Voice of Good Hope, Vendetta, Armistead, Holy Fire, Miss Mueller, Doubt, Mabel Crowns, Sura Angelica, and Bertha, the Barber of Seville, the First Lady, Magic Flute, Clara in Porky and Bess, Queen, the Goose Girl Children's Production, Mother, Hansel and Gretel, and Mrs. Nolan, the Medium. She's been the featured soloist in Kalamazoo Singers, Kalamazoo Bach Festival, American Institute of Musical Studies Orchestra in Graz, Austria, Indiana University South Bend Orchestra, Kalamazoo Symphony Orchestra, Battle Creek Symphony, and Grand Rapids Symphony. Has performed for the Prather Entertainment Group, Farmers Alley and Kalamazoo Civic Theaters, as well as Opera Grand Rapids, Michigan Opera Theater, and the Lyric Opera of Chicago. She's done TV and film, Harriet Tubman documentary, and the documentary animation Murder Made Me Famous. She did the Selena TV, Reagan from Movie Star to President documentary, The Man from Mars, that short film, Liberty Secret independent film, Texas Flip, and Move HTTV. And she's been a feature soloist for President Bill Clinton and Barack Obama. She toured Europe and Brazil, and she has so many upcoming projects, they are too numerous to mention. And as Saturday, as I emceed the African American Educators Hall of Fame, as I introduced her then as the Marian Anderson of all that is. Ms. Roberts, thank you.
Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom and the power and the
That's the only thing that stopped me from knocking somebody out today. Thank God. Let me just tell you, let me just say to you, thank you for that. I'm going to tell you, people will tell you singers usually can't get up to sing this time of the morning. And if they do, they've got to get up 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning so the voice will be warm and attuned, etc., etc. And she's just, I'll tell you, and that entire family, her mother, I don't think she'll get, but her mother really accomplishes her and accompanies her, and she's just something else. And so we're just glad that she's in Dallas. Just thank you very much.
And thank you from Kalamazoo,
Ms. Roberts.
Michigan.
That was good.
And our first resolution
No, I
is
feel like that
from
means
Commissioner
something.
Teresa Daniel. Go ahead.
Oh, good morning, good morning. Would like to start off this morning in recognition of Jury Appreciation Week, April 30th through May 4th, and with those who are here to recognize the part that all of us play in the importance of jury service and the preservation of the rule of law, the fair and impartial administration of justice. It's not rocket science, but you know what? There are lots of steps, and it's got to be right. So we most definitely appreciate what's going on here. Whereas the 2015 Texas Legislature passed SB 565, now Section 662.155 of the Texas Government Code, declaring the first week in May as Jury Appreciation Week. And whereas trial by jury is of fundamental importance in our system of justice, enshrined in both the Texas and federal constitutions, the work of juries helps to safeguard our democracy and the liberties we enjoy as citizens of a free society. Jury service is so important that the sworn members of a jury panel become officers of the court. And whereas the Commissioners Court recognizes that the Constitution and laws of the state of Texas contain procedural safeguards in criminal cases for all defendants, including indigent defendants. This ensures the right to trial by jury in all civil and criminal cases and supports the courts in complying with such legal requirements. And whereas the Commissioners Court recognizes that to serve on a jury is to exercise one of the most important civic duties in both our state and our nation, thus ensuring and protecting one of the foundations of our democracy and the judicial system. And whereas Dallas County is committed to making service on a jury a rewarding and comfortable experience, to that end, Dallas County has renovated the central jury room at the Frank Crowley Criminal Courts building and has completed renovations to the jury room at the George Allen Courts building. A jury appreciation committee has been established with members from the county, jury services, the judiciary, the Dallas legal community through the Dallas Bar Association, and ABOTA, the American Board of Trial Advocates, to continue to monitor and advise the county on any needs or issues. Now therefore be it resolved by the Commissioners Court of Dallas County, Texas, that April 30th through May 4th, 2018 is hereby recognized as Jury Appreciation Week in recognition of the fair and impartial justice offered to our citizens by those who have served and who are currently serving as jurors. And I so move.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying
Hold on. The discussion. I just find it interesting that we can talk about jury service and jurors and not talk about Batson, and especially when we talk about fair justice. How do we do a resolution and not put Batson in there at some level? Maybe one of you judges can explain to me. And I know this doesn't impact everybody, but since we're going to historically, talk about justice and juries.
I can tell you, Commissioner, that right now we are participating, Dallas County is participating in a pilot project where we are adding implicit bias and instruction on implicit bias into our jury instructions, and we are participating with SMU so that we can perhaps affect positively the way jurors are selected, are impaneled, and ultimately render decisions. And so we're hopeful to be able to present that to the Texas Supreme Court.
Yeah, well, I mean, since we're resolving to do something, why don't we, inculcate that in a resolution? It says we're talking about doing something. We recognize the historical and equity and the Batson, and y'all the lawyers, but I mean we do stuff around here, and I've said this before about these resolutions. We ought to at least send people toward it. You got that information. It doesn't say any of that in our resolution.
That sounds like a follow-up resolution.
I will be more than happy to give you a follow-up.
When we
give
see
you a
what
report.
happens with this, then we can report on the good news of ways that we can improve our systems.
This was actually just approved and just, when did we start? April 15th that we started? No, April 2nd. We just started on April 2nd with this study. It was just approved and implemented.
When was Batson?
When was Batson?
Batson versus Kentucky. You might want to help me. I mean, I'm bootlegging, so tell me Batson.
The year fails me.
Okay.
I think it's
But it's been a while.
Yeah,
It's been a while, at least since I've been practicing law. So I know it's more than 27 years.
I guess,
If you would like Batson added, or you would like to add the positive things that we add to the
Yes,
commission,
I
I would be
mean,
more than happy to do so.
Yeah, I just think that, it's okay to talk about follow-up. It's like things we've done, and I've said this, whether it's HHS, we just do resolution, and we don't point, if they were to come back and extract history and start reading some of this stuff, and it makes everybody feels good and flowery and everything's fine. Well, it doesn't talk about the history, the historical inequities in jury services. I understand, but I'd love to see that, and I think conceptually, Commissioner, I understand where you're trying to go.
Actually, there are a couple of references in here to procedural safeguards, to a variety of things that have changed over time.
I can make the resolution longer.
Yeah.
We can talk more.
I'm a lawyer by trade, so I have the ability to
We'll have
have a lot of
something next
words.
time, too.
I'll be more than happy to do so, sir, the next
Okay.
time, whether you want a follow-up resolution or you want me to prepare for next year.
Well, we can do it our next meeting.
And I want to commend the judges. I've practiced law and trial law, as especially for 30 years, and I saw repeatedly how most of my clients were people of color, and I saw frequently where the other side would strike people of color from the jury, and it appeared to me for no other reason than that they were in fact people of color, and that's Batson. And that law allows us to make a record if the judge allows those strikes as to how that is hurtful to our client, and potentially to have the case overturned on appeal. And it's had a good effect that judges require reasons beyond just someone feeling like striking someone. This implicit bias, though, and we continue to work on that. I think in Dallas, you do a fairly good job, or, you know, I don't mean fairly as faint praise. I tried cases in front of many of the judges here from 6 to 10 and saw a real improvement in the way that you handle that. So this implicit bias, I want to commend you on, because I took part in your workshop with many lawyers, along with many of you, at Bench Bar last year, where we heard from the nation's preeminent person on implicit bias, and they pointed out that in test after test, officers are more likely to shoot a person of color in the exact same scenario when they do the video shoot, don't shoot test. Jurors are more likely to see an African-American young man as older and more dangerous than a juvenile who is Anglo. And so knowing that, what judges like you across the country are doing is seeking to inform juries about implicit bias, because the evidence shows that there's about an 84% decrease in implicit bias when you just tell people at the beginning, hey, you might have implicit bias. Be aware of this. Guard against this bias in this case. For instance, involving a 12-year-old who's accused of stealing something from the store. That can have a profound impact. So you're working on that. My understanding is that we're going to try to get both an instruction in that and perhaps that into the video. I think the ABA best practice on that is to do both those things. And so, you know, I want to encourage you to keep down that path. I think it's tremendously important that we do that and we deal with that, given that our jury pools tend to be, we've got a lawsuit going on now about who gets discriminated against, right, in another place in the federal courts. When I was trying cases, I saw this, and I see it today if I just go over there. We are oversampled on our jury pools with Anglo non-Hispanics, always, because that's 25% of our population. It's a good over 50% of our jury pools. So given that a group that is probably, according to the studies, the most likely group to engage in implicit bias, not because they're bigots or anything, but because it's implicit, they don't recognize that bias, and given that we're oversampled in that group on our jury pools, it's very important that we address this, because since we're oversampled, it means that our citizens that go before those juries tend to be not oversampled, tend to be proportionate to the population, and that tends to be people of color. So you got people of color going in front of a jury of their peers that's oversampled by Anglo non-Hispanics, who are the most likely group, according to the studies, to have implicit bias. So it's important that we address that.
Thank you, and it also segues into something we're also working on. We have jury vendor services, and I'm working with Donna Barantz and Lori Bodina. We're working towards, number one, making sure that we keep having a panel that's refreshed so that we do see the diversity of panels. And we're also looking at what obstacles may be impeding certain individuals from participating. So we're looking at that as well. One of the hopeful things we're going to do, in addition to the refreshing and ensuring that we have a diverse population, both at George Allen and Crowley, is also hoping to do a direct report to the JPs. And so that people aren't coming downtown and then going back out to their
Totally agree with
communities.
that.
So I was hoping that would happen in January. Has not happened. We've been waiting a
So-
year, so we're still working on that technical glitch.
When you don't do a direct report to the JPs, I can tell you, because I've saw this happen over and over again, what happens is you end up having the people of color on your jury pool sucked out of your jury pool and sent to a JP court case, and then you got a person whose freedom may be at stake in sitting there in a courtroom, or whose future may be at stake, and suddenly the jury pool is not at all reflective of the population of Dallas County. and we're supposed to get a jury of our peers.
I appreciate all these theses and dissertations. Had I not brought up Babson, hell, we wouldn't even be talking about it. My point is, if you want to pull the resolution down, and bring it back, that's fine. I mean, let's start to do some things that, if we're going to do resolutions, resolve to do something, let's be directed, and not just, it's just a nice thing to do.
When is the ribbon cutting for
The ribbon cutting, we're hoping it'll be in May. Right now, we have the furniture is actually been delivered, the remaining part of the furniture. The central jury room at George Allen is approximately 90%
So
completed.
would you be willing to,
Add into that,
and
absolutely.
because then we can do it again on the 1st, which is
That's
our next
fine.
meeting?
Well, Jury Appreciation Week is May 1st through May 7th, which is why we're doing the resolution in
Right.
anticipation of that. I think last year we did it May 2nd. But whatever the commissioners would like, that would be fine. I won't be present on the next meeting, but I'd be happy to have someone
You're
present.
here today.
I was here
Judge
today.
Moberg will be present. Judge Moberg will be present, won't you?
Judge Marburg's always present.
Yeah. right.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway,
He's actually has his jury waiting on him, but
Okay.
I did want to thank, just so that you're aware of how many people are working on this. From your jury staff, you have Jonathan Bazan, you have Lorianne Bodino, Michelle Kenyon, Donna Barantz, Ricardo Ulua, and then Sandeep Katuria. I did that right. Katuria has been instrumental in working with me on improving jury services. We have Judge Martin Hoffman, Judge Dominique Collins, Judge Ken Moberg, DBA, the Dallas Bar Association, President Michael Hurst, Laura Benitez Geisler, and immediate past President Rob Crane. The ABOTA, American Board of Trial Advocates, Quentin Brogdon is the immediate past president, Richard Capshaw and Jim Graw have stepped in as well. And I want to let you know, last year was a complete success. We had coffee, we had donuts, we had water, down serving, talking to the jurors. It was a phenomenal experience from my part. I know in Crowley they utilize primarily jury services. This year we have judges volunteering to come down, so I can tell you that George Allen, Judge Mary Brown, Maricela Moore, Judge Tanya Parker, Judge Stacey Williams, Judge Ken Tapscott, Judge Danielle Diaz, Judge Jean Lee, and Judge Cheryl McFarland have all volunteered. And at Crowley, we have Judge Jennifer Bennett, Judge Dominique Collins, Judge Nancy Kennedy, Judge Gracie Lewis, in addition to the Dallas Bar Association and BOTA's generous contributions that allowed us to provide the water, coffee, and donuts. And last year, Judge Ken Moberg and myself also contributed. The Dallas Criminal Defense Lawyers Association has stepped up. So my mantra has always been, commissioners, is that we can't make jury service, we can't make them love it. I'm trying not to make them hate it. So we're trying to address their concerns, trying to make it more diverse, trying to make it more accessible to everyone, and make this a positive experience so that we can preserve and protect the right to have a jury trial.
in all those enunciations, I did not hear the Dallas Black Bar. I did not hear Dallas Hispanic Bar. I did not hear Dallas Asian Bar.
Those are the ones that have stepped up. But Dallas Bar Association, the sister bars that you're talking about, that's all part of it.
Have they been approached? Have they been approached?
Yeah, jail.
No.
No?
Well, that's my point, Judge. I mean,
These are the people who at least are doing something
I don't-
in the right direction. I want to say
Ms. Roberts,
thank
you
you.
still here? Anyway,
wanna pass it?
it's not about doing something. Do it right.
I
Do
was
it
thinking if we
inclusive.
can do it on the
If you want to pull it
1st.
down, pull it down. Otherwise, I'll
But
vote
I'm
yes. I don't
thinking,
care.
no, I would like to, if we could, to, even though regretfully you will not be here on the 1st, to just add that part on there, because I think that it's a sentiment that is shared by us here, and we see the efforts going on, and that should be included, and so that it can be recognized also. So if that, with your indulgence, I would like to withdraw this resolution at this time and bring it forward at our next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Appreciate your
much.
attention. Thank you.
And thank you for coming.
And thank you for all the work you do.
Judge, the next one I have is freeway management. Will the Sheriff's Department, freeway management group come forward, please?
Good morning.
Morning. Whereas Dallas County has, to its benefit and credit, an employee base that comprehensively promotes and protects the welfare and livelihoods of all of its citizens, of which Dallas County Sheriff's Department is responsible and accountable. And whereas Dallas County wholly believes its freeway system is a vital community asset, and understands the significance of managing traffic and clearing roadway obstructions while working to reduce the risk to motorists and first responders who are susceptible to hazardous conditions. And whereas North Texas regional commuters have experienced a 35% increase in travel time due to congestion, which is compounded by a rise in the level of vehicle emissions and a $4.2 billion in lost productivity annually. Where Dallas County began this traffic section in 2000, dedicated to rapid response and expedited clearance of freeway incidents and their corresponding investigations, the success of that program resulted in an expansion on a more heavily congested roadway and freeways throughout Dallas County. And where the Dallas County Sheriff's section is comprised of 120 deputies charged with developing and maintaining a safe, efficient, and friendly system for the county, and is made up of severally highly trained specialty units, including Vehicle Crimes Unit, Commercial Vehicle Enforcement Unit, K-9 Interdiction Unit, Courtesy Patrol, and the HOV Unit, who are responsible for pinpointing enforcement efforts and improving safety for motorists who travel Dallas County roadways. And whereas Dallas County, as a part of its vision for the future, is committed to Mobility 2030, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan for the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which will reduce traffic congestion and the related impacts on air quality, energy, safety, and the overall quality of life. Therefore, be it resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby, and with great sense of pride and purpose, pledge its support to the Dallas County Sheriff's effort to enhance safety through quick detection and clearance of traffic incidents using the latest technologies, best practices in freeway management, advanced training of their personnel, and I so move.
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Chief Garza?
This morning, Judge Jenkins, Commissioner Price, Commissioner Garcia, Commissioner McManus, thank you so much for this resolution and the support that you always given us throughout these years. I also want to recognize the traffic management, Commander Captain Robinson, Sergeant Dolliff, Chief Foster, Lieutenant Salas, Sergeant Palmer, and Sergeant Dreyer. These people make the citizens of Dallas County safe. They provide their safety, the protection, and they do an outstanding job. And for that, I commend each and every one of them. So thank you so much for the resolution. I appreciate it.
And I'm glad to see, we don't like to use the word enforcement, but compliance. But I was glad to see, Captain, I think it was last week on I-30 HOV lane. It appears as though there was a compliance issue at hand. And I sat there and monitored it from a distance while I saw what was going on. So I just want to thank you. I know we get a lot of complaints with regards to the commercial unit, but they continue to do. I know that we can never have enough officers with regards to Dallas being the center of probably transit and commerce with 20, 45, and 35. You'll never get enough. You'll never have enough officers, and at the same time, those of us who have those cities, those small cities, truckers have begun to, I guess they've got something called two-way radios, and they kind of call and say, you guys are up there, and they take shortcuts through the city. And believe me, we're starting to see that in terms of the roadways that are not designed to accommodate those trucks. They're cutting through our smaller cities, and they're just plowing up the road, so.
And the job that you all do, I think the commissioner read it in the resolution about the quality of life for the whole county. I remember when I was in the Dallas City Council, when you all started, to do some of these traffic enforcement, you started doing the southern sector because the northern part did not want the sheriff to get involved. Well, after the sheriff started doing the enforcement, I have to tell you, you all did clear, accidents faster than the PD, with all due respect. So by the end of the period of the pilot, everybody wanted to have the sheriff department clearing accidents, not only because you all did it faster, you all did it seamlessly. The city saved a lot of time with Dallas police officers and fire department getting into the accidents. So I want to congratulate you for all these years, because it's easy to say since 2000, but the reality, that's almost 20 years. So congratulations, you continue to do a great job, to the point that now people don't want to be here in Dallas. Sorry, Commissioner Price, that all those big, loaders have to go through the small cities, but it's a good pain to have when we have the congestion that we have in, the Dallas Metroplex area.
I think the last numbers we're seeing about 7,000 people moving here every week.
Every week. We're now the fastest growing region. And with that being said, when you clear an accident faster, not only do you clean the air, help the city, but also, help all those taxpayers that pretty much don't like to be stuck behind an accident, and your lives are at risk. So thank you all, and congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate what you do.
And Dr. Garcia has our last two resolutions.
Thank you, George, colleagues, members of the audience. Good morning, buenos dias. It's my honor to present the next resolution to the National Autism Awareness Month. I have Ms. Silvia Gacha here with Ms. Tanya Brown and other guests. Well, I will ask them to come forward, and they're wearing blue because, as you all know, and you probably saw the skyline a few weeks ago, was blue on, child abuse and, autism spectrum disorder is a complex developmental disability. Signs typically appear during early childhood and affects a person's ability to communicate and interact with others. ASD is defined by a certain set of behaviors and is a spectrum condition that affects individuals differently and to varying degrees. There is no known single cause of autism. However, it appears to have its roots in a very early brain development. Some of the behaviors associated with autism include delayed learning of language, repetitive use of language, and/or motor mannerisms such as hand flapping or triggering objects, poor motor skills, sensory sensitivities, lack of interest in peer relationships, persistent fixation on parts of objects, little or no eye contact, and difficulty holding a conversation, and executive functioning, which relates to reasoning and planning. And whereas April is National Autism Awareness Month, this effort is an opportunity to educate the public about autism and issues within the autism community. Increasing awareness is key to ensure earlier diagnosis and effective methods for early intervention. And whereas autism is the fastest growing developmental disability with a 119.4% growth rate between the years 2000, when the rate was approximately 1 in 150 cases, and 2010, when the rate has dramatically increased to 1 in 61 cases. 1% of the population of children in the United States ages 3 to 17 have ASD. The current estimated prevalence is 1 in 68 births. Studies show that autism is 4 to 5 times more common among boys than girls. It has been reported that more than 3.5 million Americans live with ASD. And whereas the Autism Society of America estimates that the average cost per pupil for educating a child with autism per year is over $20,600. Estimated annual costs to provide adult services range from $175 to $196 billion, compared to the $61 to $66 billion used for children. And whereas each individual with autism is unique, some have significant disability and are unable to live independently. After leaving high school, 35% of young adults ages 19 to 23 with autism have not had a job or received postgraduate education. And whereas many of those with autism have exceptional abilities in visual skills, music, and academic skills, about 40% have average to above average intellectual abilities. Indeed, many persons on the spectrum take deserved pride in their distinctive abilities and atypical ways of viewing the world. Autism is treatable. However, children do not outgrow autism, but studies show that an early diagnosis and intervention and access to appropriate services can lead to significantly improved outcomes. And whereas in the Dallas Independent School District, the number of students with ASD is 1.4% of the total student population of 17% of the special education population. It is the mission of the ISD to improve the lives of those students on the autism spectrum by delivering effective instruction and increasing acceptance, respect, and support. And whereas, in an effort to help parents better understand and support their students with special needs, the DISD Special Education Department, which is headed by Ms. Tanya Brown, will be hosting a conference in observance of autism awareness. This event will be held on Friday, April 27, 2018, at 9:30 at the Salmon Centers for the Arts, and is open to all DISD parents of students with disabilities. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby recognize April as National Autism Awareness Month in an effort to raise awareness and improve services for individuals on the autism spectrum, and I so move.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Good morning. Good morning, Judge Jenkins, Commissioners, Dr. Garcia. Thank you so much for once again having us and allowing us another opportunity to share information about Dallas ISD, our work in the Special Education Department, and particularly today, our work with students with autism. I'm Tanya Brown. I'm the Executive Director for the Special Education Department. We have about 400 staff on our team, and a few of them are behind me and help us in this effort. Dallas ISD serves nearly 14,000 students who receive special education services across 230 campuses, and that includes 2,400 students with autism. We recognize that because every student is different, Dr. Garcia, you mentioned in the resolution, every student is unique. And we know that we need to increase rigor and teach to the strengths of our students with autism spectrum disorders, regardless of their disabilities and regardless of their perceived abilities. It is our goal that all students in this population leave our school district with a functional communication system and skills that will enable them to be able to pursue jobs and meet their post-secondary goals, whatever those might be. We use every day to increase the awareness and understanding of autism spectrum disorders among our stakeholders, and we are constantly increasing our own knowledge about autism and sharing that knowledge by providing professional development and training for our teachers and administrators, and very importantly, by helping our students and their families learn to live fruitful and productive lives with autism. I do want to repeat the invitation that we are having an autism conference for parents next Friday, April 27th, and we invite you to come. It will be a great time. We are at the Salmon Center, and we are focused on the arts. So many of our students will be performing their very special talents, and we're very excited about that opportunity coming up. I would like to request a picture with the commissioners.
Of course.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, you bet. Come on in.
Come on down.
And thank you for all the work you do. I mean,
Thank you.
even when it's a 1.4% of the ISD, the reality is these children and adults need all the help that we can get. Thank you.
All right.
Friday, April 27th at the Salmon Center. Thank you, and we will send it to you.
Thank you. Thank you for your work.
Thank you. The next resolution, colleagues and members of the audience, is about the citizenship. As you all know, the census does a count every decade, and it's important that everybody gets counted. You have probably already seen that there's a debate about putting the word citizenship and migratory status, which I believe will be detrimental for every city, county, and state in the United States of America. We don't have a real count of how many we live here. So I believe, Judge, that we have some speakers. You want me to read the resolution first?
Yeah, if you'll read the resolution, we'll move it, and then we'll hear from the speakers, and then if there's any discussion, we can have that.
Sounds good. So the resolution reads as follows. Whereas the federal government is required to take a census every decade to count the whole number of persons residing in the United States, and whereas the decennial census is the basic starting point for our system of democracy, determining the fair apportionment of representation at all levels of government by establishing that is who we are and that these are our numbers. And whereas the census touches virtually every aspect of our lives, determining not only political representation, but shaping how federal resources are allocated, guiding business location and investment, driving decisions by schools and police departments, and informing medical research. And whereas hundreds of billions of dollars in federal aid for transportation funding, education, healthcare, housing, and other program funding are based on numbers generated by the census. And whereas census data informs statistical publications that help business owners and local governments make key decisions on matters ranging from marketing and investment to where schools should be built, to assignment of police beats, and whereas it is well documented that including a question regarding citizenship on the general census form will have the effect of discouraging residents on immigrant communities, both documented and undocumented, from participating in the census. And whereas 6 former census directors under both Republican and Democratic administration have stated unequivocally that the addition of a citizenship question will result in an accurate census and a higher undercount. And whereas after the 2010 count, the U.S. Census Bureau found that most Texans live in the harder to count areas than the national average. The Texas Tribune reported that about 66 of the state residents, including 85% of Texas Hispanics, live in census tracts that exceed the national average for low response scores. An undercount due to a citizenship question will have a disproportionately negative impact on the population count of states and areas with high immigrant populations, such as the state of Texas in general and Dallas County in particular. And whereas this is not a partisan issue, it's a policy issue. Texas currently receives approximately only 65 cents back for every dollar sent to Washington in federal taxes, and an accurate count is essential to improve that figure. In 2015, that amounted to $43 billion from the federal government funds based on census data. An undercount will further shortchange the state of Texas in tax money received back from the federal government for critical services. Additionally, Texas stands to lose up to 3 congressional seats in the state population isn't adequately counted. Now, therefore, be resolved that the Dallas County Commissioners Court does hereby oppose the addition of any question regarding citizenship to the general census form and strongly urges the Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross, to remove these or any other question that will undermine the accuracy and the decennial census and negatively impact their representation and resources fairly due to the state of Texas and Dallas County. And I so move.
And I second.
All right, and at this time, we got a couple of public speakers on this matter. So could the bailiff please read the rules of decorum for our public speakers?
All Commissioner Court attendees are hereby advised that this meeting is conducted in accordance with the provisions of the Dallas County Code, Section 74-71. Visitors and registered speakers are to preserve order and decorum at all times. Personal, profane, or slanderous remarks are not appropriate and will not be allowed at any time during this public meeting. Any and all applause is to be kept brief in observance of time constraints. Disruptive visitors and registered speakers may be removed and are subject to the penalties provided in the State of Texas Penal Code, Sections 38.13, 42.01, and 42.05. Registered individual speakers are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes, and the maximum discussion of any one topic is limited to 30 minutes.
Right. So we have several speakers today, as I explain each time this happens. The speakers who are not here on a court order or a resolution that we're hearing today will be taken at the end, but you will be heard. So when you don't hear your name called for this, it doesn't mean you're not going to be heard. It just means right now we're dealing with the matter of the resolution before us. I notice we also have a speaker on one of our court orders. You likewise will be heard, but when we get to that court order. And our first speaker on the census is Ms. Summer Gonzalez. And I'll give some brief instructions to Summer, and those instructions will apply to everyone. Ms. Gonzalez, up here on these screens, after you begin to speak, you'll see what looks like a traffic signal, and it'll be green, and when you have about 30 seconds left, it'll go yellow. When it's time to stop and your time's up, it'll be red. And so when you see red, you just go ahead and finish your sentence. If you hear me lightly tap on the gavel, it means we're over the time, okay? So if you'll just start by stating your name and your address, and then tell us what you want to tell us.
Good morning, Judge Jenkins, Commissioners and Dallas County citizens. My name is Summer Joy Gonzalez, and I reside at 406 West Standifer in McKinney, Texas, 75069. Census is not just an academic exercise. It's the basis for deciding the number of representatives each state gets in Congress and how billions of dollars are distributed. Federal funds are distributed. The Justice Department is trying to limit our resources and representation at the federal level, but that is not all. They're reaching too far when trying to suppress and intimidate Hispanic voters. The Census Act requires that all questions asked on the census fulfill a purpose. If the Census Bureau or its administration can establish that there is a legal requirement, a requirement in law for citizenship data for the smallest levels of geography, then that would be the justification for asking every household about the citizenship status of household members but no such law exists as of yet. This is a quote from Terry Ann Lowenthal, an expert on census issues. This seems very dangerous to me, so now our homes may also be open for search of citizenship. It is very interesting to me how far certain groups will go to maintain their political power. It seems like the Department of Justice is busy helping find ways to limit the voting power of the actual majority. Some Republicans and anti-immigration groups see the undocumented population as conferring an unfair advantage on Democrats. For example, Representative Steve King of Iowa, he expressed that he don't want, the undocumented population to be counted because Maxine Waters got her vote with only 120,000, he took 40,000, something like that. He's saying that undocumented population will give an unfair advantage to Democratic representatives. Obviously, the other side doesn't want that. Something for me that is very personal is when I see how the IRS has no problem collecting taxes from the undocumented community. They developed an ITIN for this purpose, taxpayer identification number. So they keep their federal tax dollars that they do actually pay in, their Social Security and their Medicaid, but now they don't want to return those same dollars to our communities and to sustain our communities and our schools. I don't know if you know, but when Mexican nationals come and they spend their money in our communities, when they cross back to Mexico, they get their sales tax back. It's a refund to them. But the undocumented community, their money stays here. Every sales tax, the dollar that they spend, every dollar they spend that it has sales tax on it, that stays here. Every federal withholding that comes, even if they're working undocumented or using another Social Security number, all that federal withholding stays within the federal government, all the Social Security and the Medicare tax. International students, when they come with a visa, that money at the end of the year, it's returned to them. That is not happening for our undocumented community. This money is being kept. They don't even get it when they want to use it for FAFSA. Something to consider. This is an attempt at gerrymandering on a federal level, and we must be bold and wise to stop it. As I stand before you in this historical facility, having the JFK Museum next to us, this should be an inspiration to all of you. As he said, ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country. You're in the position to do right by all Americans, and that is to remove the citizenship question from the census, so that all of those who live here will have accurate representation.
Thank you, Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you very much, Ms. Gonzalez. Our next speaker is Mr. Leroy Pereira. Come on up, Mr. Pereira.
Yeah, I guess they spell my last name wrong. It's Pena, P-E-N-A.
Okay.
I am the Prime Minister of the Brown Bernays of Semanawak here in Dallas. And we've been thinking about this new citizenship question that's going to be on the census. As we've already seen with what's going on right now with the ICE, with their deportations, a lot of their information that they're getting to carry out these deportations are from the undocumented immigrants themselves when they willingly would come in to do their periodic check-ins. So I've got the feeling that they're going to use this same, when they fill out this form, they're going to use this against them also when they check non-citizen or undocumented. Now, I have Lipan Apache heritage, and my Native American people weren't even granted citizenship until 1924, and the right to vote also. So, and we've been here since time immemorial, and yet barely in 1924 we were granted citizenship. So to put that on the census, from my point of view, is wrong, because as long as we've been here, we've barely been granted citizenship. And when these people have to decide on that census form whether to check it or not, they're going to be reluctant to check that, knowing that that information can be used against them. So that's all I wanted to say today.
Well, let me just say this, and I'll ask Dr. Garcia for a friendly amendment, because the first one says the whole number, and I would prefer that say the entire number, because as you talk about your people, the whole number, we were 3/5
Yeah.
for purposes of the census.
Yes, sir.
We were property.
Yes.
but for purposes of the census, we were 3/5. We weren't even a whole. Of course, if you read that Communities Foundation report, we still 3/5. We get paid 60% of what an Anglo does. That's the report that came out last week. Nothing really has changed. So I appreciate that comment, and if she'll...
The amendment is well taken, Commissioner.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming from 7752.
The next one is Hilda Duarte. Ms. Hilda Duarte? Yes. It's coming.
If you'll pull the microphone down, if you'll just state your name for the record, and give us your address, and then proceed, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Price. My name is Hilda Duarte. I reside at 407 Bella Street in Duncanville. I'd like to greet Commissioner Daniels and Dr. Garcia and all the citizens here today. I'm here this morning for you to consider approving the resolution submitted by the Honorable Dr. Garcia regarding dropping or removing the question of citizenship in the 2020 census form. The census is a document used to gather information and to access population with regard to determining how many representatives should be elected for each state and so on. And then further assist our local city-state government with information about future resources that we could use at a local level. Today, our nation's current administration, and now with the question of citizenship, I believe will be used further to be bigotry and divisiveness of the country to utilize and intimidate non-citizens from responding to the census. There is no purpose other than to intimidate and induce fear of the undocumented residents from around the world that reside in our country, and specifically here in the Dallas County. Because let's face it, Hispanics are not the only undocumented in our metroplex. We are blessed to be diverse here in Dallas, and because of our diversity, we are greater. So I urge you to approve the resolution to remove the question regarding citizenship in the census form. This will result in more accurate numbers that are needed for our funding in our county, because numbers do matter. And one last thing I'd like to mention that has nothing to do with this, but I'd like to boycott Starbucks this Sunday regarding the discrimination they did on those two black gentlemen. Thank you for your time.
I'm with you.
Thank you, Ms.
Okay.
Duarte. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We can't afford Starbucks anyway, but anyway.
I don't drink coffee, but
I don't drink coffee either, but that's all right.
not too much caffeine. But we appreciate that, Ms. Duarte.
Okay.
The next speaker is Ms. Esther Ramirez. Ms. Ramirez was telling me last time she was here was 51 years ago. They will look the same.
Says you had nasal bit, Commissioner Price.
Yeah, I'm not a citizen.
Good morning, Judge Jenkins,
Good morning.
Dr. Garcia, and all commissioners. My name is Esther Ramirez. I reside at 407 Bella Street in Duncanville. Today I come before you with a concern regarding the upcoming 2020 National Census. There is a question that will be included in this very unique and important instrument, and one question is asking about citizenship. Are you a legal citizen? If I'm not mistaken, the census calculates the population of a country, which can be used for many things, such as locating places to put public service facilities, like schools, post office, roads, libraries, etc. It is a census that asks the citizens questions about their jobs, income, and family members, children. This allows the government to see the average income of citizens and predict the population of the future. A census serves three main factors. First, a census is a historical record of the population of a country, how families are arranged, housed, and what occupations are being undertaken, employed. Second, as a keystone for decisions about where government resources will need to be spent in the future. And finally, a census is used to calculate and decide how many elected representatives an area should have, like you all. However, citizens citizenship is not a necessary factor. The question of citizenship provides more of a self-serving threat by the government on individuals that reside in our cities who have overstayed a visa. Citizenship is not necessarily a determined factor of the three previously mentioned reasons for a census. I wish to applaud Dr. Elba Garcia for her due diligence of research on the upcoming 2020 census document. They will not serve its function of a correct tabulation due to the threat seen by many residents that will not complete their census for the fear of being identified to later be deported once they divulge their citizenship. Therefore, I urge you to please accept Dr. Garcia's resolution so that all residents of Dallas will be truthfully counted, so that all citizens will benefit from a correct number tabulated from the 2020 census. Otherwise, we will continue to shortchange the residents, and especially our children, with less resources and inadequate education. Thank you for all the great work you all do for the citizens of Dallas County. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Ms. Ramirez. Gracias a usted.
A usted.
Our next speaker
Ms. Ramiro Luna. Ramiro Luna,
is Ramiro Luna.
which I don't see here.
Ramiro Luna. Let's see him here. Our next speaker is Chris Romero. Come on.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Chris Romero. I live at 6946 George Brown Drive, Garland, Texas, 75043. I am the Chair of Dallas County Tejano Democrats, 125 members strong. I am a native Dallasite, and it wasn't until I was much older that I realized why I lived in the neighborhood where I grew up. The U.S. Census Bureau announced March 28th of this year that the 2020 census will ask every American household to record which members of their family are U.S. citizens. Only a few hours later, it was facing a lawsuit over the decision. A group of 14 states, led by California, are trying to force the government to back down and leave the citizen question off the census when it goes out to the American households 2 years from now. But the critics are skeptical that the Trump administration intends to use the citizen data for good reasons. The not-so-subtle implication critics says that it's part of a broader project by the Attorney General Jeff Sessions and company to take America back to the pre-civil rights era. It's just not a symbolic issue. Critics are seriously concerned that adding a single citizenship question to the survey, to the census, could scare away millions of immigrants from filling out their mandatory surveys, throwing off the count who's president in America. That's used to determine congressional appointment for the next decade, allocate federal funding for infrastructure, and serve as the basis for huge amounts of American research. A skewed census would hurt the places in America where Latinos are most likely to live, cities and blue states, fueling both the lawsuit and the suspicion that the Trump administration is engaging in deliberate subterfuge. Both the Census Bureau collects a lot of data that goes beyond the basic mandatory every 10-year count, information that then gets used for congressional funding allotments as the basis for other federal and academic research in carving up congressional districts within the state and in deciding the total number of congressional members in the state gets. And for all these purposes, Congress in 1976 amended the demographic sampling to collect data. In the 2000 to 2010 cycle, the Census Bureau spent roughly $12.5 billion on the 2010 count. In 2011 Congress, the newly elected Tea Party members froze the 2020 census budget at the time level, taking no account of the inflation during the period. By contrast, African Americans and Latinos are historically significantly undercounted. In fact, African Americans are twice as likely to be undercounted as whites or to be overcounted, and Latinos are 3 times more likely to be undercounted. Underfunded census and all these trends get greatly magnified. Statistically, American post-2020 might well look whiter, more affluent, and more suburban than it actually is. Quote, "There's a number of groups at disproportionate risk," unquote, explains Terry Ann Lowenthal, a consultant to the Leadership Conference on Civil and Human Rights and former staff director for the U.S. House of Representatives and Subcommittee on Census and Population. Quote, "There historically has been a persistent undercount of communities of color, especially of blacks, Latinos, and American Indians living on reservations in tribal lands and young children under the age of 5, particularly children of color," unquote. Lowenthal also worries that with Trump as president and with the administration openly hostile to immigrants, many non-citizen immigrants will be less likely to cooperate with the Census Bureau takers. Quote, "Immigrants will be
You're out of
fearful."
time, I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Chris.
And our last speaker is Mr. Julio Acosta.
I also wanted to recognize here is Hector Flores, former national president of LULAC. Thank you, Mr. Flores, for being here.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Julio Acosta. My address is 1644 Blackstone Drive, Carrollton, Texas. I live in Dallas County, and since December I have been lobbying to D.C. 3 different times. I got to speak to Rafael Cruz, the current Texas senator, for 30 seconds. I say this because I could sense the lack of representing the will of we the people. This latest effort from the current administration is a continuation of anti-immigrant attacks. We are all living at a time when history will remember where we stand. Yes, we very much need the best possible census data for congressional apportionment and allocation of federal resources. The latter is especially important to you as county commissioners. Make no mistake, the citizenship question is a direct threat to a full and accurate count of all people in Dallas and the nation. The citizenship question will affect misstatus families greatly. History now remembers when census data was used to place American citizens of Japanese descent into camps during World War II. The government has since apologized. Sadly, I fear that if the current administration has its way, they would look for ways to use this census data to see where high concentrations of non-citizens can be found. I ask you to please do everything you can to make the 2020 census count. If there's any way to possibly look into joining the lawsuit that Chris Romero mentioned, that should be taken into account. But again, we ask that you do everything you can to make 2020 count. Thank you.
Thank you.
And now is an opportunity for discussion. Commissioner Garcia.
Well, thank you, Josh. I think the speakers, and I want to thank them all for being here today. Your input, your comments really make a difference in, how elected officials have to do our work. And I guess the resolution is clear, like your comments, that this will, result, an undercount in the census will result in not only, less representation, but less resources for all of us. And when we talk about a county and a region that is growing like we just discussed in all the other resolutions, with so many needs in education, in transportation and infrastructure, in air, and, in county services, what are we doing, dividing, and with, an undercount? As an elected official, we want to have a real count of people living in our county and in our state. And that's what this resolution is all about. Please do the right thing. Take out any questions from the census that divide us. This is a time when we all should be together and an opportunity to know the true numbers. Does anyone around here likes to be lied? No. So this is our opportunity. Thank you, colleagues, for your support, and I hope this resolution passes.
I would like to
Commissioner Day?
say also that I will be voting in support of this resolution because the intimidation, the use of intimidation in any form by our federal government, by any form of government, in my way of looking at the of government for the people, by the people, of the people, the intimidation is wrong. And therefore, just quite simply, for all the above reasons, quite clearly addressed by the variety of speakers and the words included in the resolution, but just the fact that this is not the American way of doing business as far as I'm concerned. So I too will be voting in support of the resolution.
Commissioner Price?
Well, she changed the,
Yes, the amendment is already included in the resolution.
and, I guess it's no different again than I talked about the other resolution in regards to Batson. I guess in this country, it's interesting. Only when it seems to impact us, and I'm going to go to this weekend again. I'm going to go to the Kerner report. 50 years after Dr. King, 50 years for this report, and again, what that report says is that nothing has changed. I just told the gentleman from the Brown Berets, the Communities Foundation did a report last week, and they just used census data. And we've been talking about that census data forever. An African American with a college degree earns what an Anglo does with a high school education. An African American with the same and similar credit history is 4 times less likely to acquire a home mortgage loan than an Anglo with the same history. Census has been saying that, and we go through all of this, and one thing Brother didn't talk about, and I've said it forever, talk about make America great again, we still got reservation plantations in this country. And when you look at the CDC numbers, the highest poverty level, the most difficult medical delivery system are still on reservations / plantations. So, really nothing has changed. We do all of this paper. I listened to the lady earlier talking about how many people have joined in this lawsuit. I really wish I had a real answer. It's another piece of paper. We'll push up. We'll push up the flagpole, and we'll see at the end of the day. What happens.
Yeah, I agree, Commissioner, but the worst thing is not to do anything, so.
Well, Dr. King said that, evil men plot when good men and women do nothing. Yeah, we understand that, but at the end of the day, we've had 50 years of it. 5 decades. And when you look at the numbers in the reports today, whether it's Community Foundation, census, nothing really has changed. The double in the high school education, but when you look at all the other entities in which whereby they garner progress, Pew report, nothing's changed. And we talked about DISD earlier. I tried to bring everything into it, but they're dismantling public education. We talk about autism. Hell, they're dismantling public education. When I looked at their budget and look at those dadgum magnet schools, they're underfunded. Why? Because that's now become the leap forward for us. Magnet schools. But yeah, they want a hike in the rate. Anyway.
I want to address those who can hear this meeting, who have concerns about undocumented immigrants among us, who believe the rhetoric that undocumented immigrants are the cause of the ills of our community. You can believe that. I believe you are wrong, but you can believe that and still want an accurate count. For every dollar that we send to Washington, in Texas, we get back 65 cents. It would seem to me that a fair thing would be for us to get our dollar back. If we count people correctly, we have a better chance of getting more of our money back. Things that you care about, even those who don't care about their neighbors who are undocumented, things that we do care about, if you care about your grandmother in a nursing home, nursing homes are largely funded by Medicaid. The Medicaid funding is made up by being sent back based largely on that census count. If you care about children's immunizations, then you care about an accurate census count. If you care about law enforcement and federal dollars coming back from law enforcement, then you care about an accurate census count. Let me tell you what, just to make it easier for people to kind of get a picture of it, the number of undocumented people who live in Dallas County currently, according to the Wall Street Journal and reports there, are roughly 242,000 people. If we take the entire population of Ellis County, where Waxahachie and Ennis and Midlothian are, and then we take the entire population of Rockwall County, where Rockwall and Heath and other suburbs are, we take every man, woman, and child there and fail to count them, that won't equal up to the undocumented people who are here in our county. If those folks largely opt out, as is reasonable for us to guess that they will do, given the tenor coming from Washington and the concerns that have been expressed today and have been expressed just by about every person I've heard that speaks on this issue, then we're looking at an undercount of nearly 250,000 people. That's enough to cost us millions, tens and tens, perhaps hundreds of millions of dollars that go towards your quality of life, whether you like undocumented people or not. On that issue, let me say one other thing for those who feel that way, because I know we had a member, or rather a candidate for office for this very body speak on that issue. I want to commend many people. I want to commend the Catholic Diocese, the Dallas Morning News, NBC5. I am an ambassador for a group called Be Golden that the Catholic Diocese came up with. And that group recognizes that immigration, regardless of how you feel about immigration, it is a political issue. And we're going to hear more and more about that between now and November. And it's a legal issue, okay? It's a legal issue. But it's also a human issue. And we're all on the same journey on this earth. And these are people who live amongst us. So I hope as people, you can believe what you want to believe, I suppose. But let's never lose sight of the fact that these are our neighbors. These are people just like we are people. And every human being is deserving of dignity and respect. And you want an accurate count so you can get what you're entitled to under the law. For all those reasons, or for any one of them, I would support this resolution.
Thank you, Judge.
With that, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
All right, and that takes us to a presentation from Ganesh, or rather I should say from Dallas County Health and Human Services. And also Dr. Perkins.
Good morning, Judge. Good morning, Commissioners. Since the last presentation, we've had 3 more deaths, flu-related deaths. 2 of them were adults, 1 pediatric death. It was an 11-year-old child a girl that passed away, and she was, she had some compromises in terms of asthma, but there was one PD death that we need to report for this court. Having said that, we have seen a decline. The numbers are trending downwards. If you will go to the next slide, that's the surveillance report that we issue for Dallas County. They are significantly low, but I need to still remind the court that we are not officially out of the flu season. May is really the final month of the flu season, so we should still be using all the safeguards. In other words, if you haven't got the flu shot, and washing your hands, and all the other precautions that are listed at the end of my presentation. Again, looking at if you go to the next slide, we've looked at the national data in terms of what CDC reports, and the first graph will show that, yeah, we are significantly down towards the baseline figure regarding the flu and pneumonia situation, as well as the influenza-like illness-related, the second graph. So both of them are showing that nationally as well we are trending downwards. If you look at the next slide, we have completed a total of 27 clinics with relation to the mobilization of the flu vaccinations. We have one pending event at Dallas Life today, and then we have, through this effort, again, I want to thank the Commissioner Price and the court here for putting us on this initiative. 775 flu vaccinations were administered as a result of that, so thank you again for that. We have, the next slide will give you the different zip codes that we targeted. We hit all those zip codes. We went back to certain areas where we felt like we needed a return. We did look at the homeless shelters. Those were the targeted vaccination efforts that we gave. And so I think all in all it's been a challenge this season, but these new initiatives have really helped. With that, we can go into the next slide will show you the four eminent diseases that are mosquito-borne. Again, like I said, April is the start of that mosquito-borne illness season. Of course, West Nile still remains the predominant threat, and so we need to basically take all the safeguards for the West Nile virus. That's really the disease that we need to watch out as we progress. The efforts, if you go to the next slide, the efforts that we are basically putting forward in terms of what Dallas County is doing, specifically the Health and Human Services, is the surveillance, testing, spraying, partnering with municipalities, and of course, continuing to educate folks through our public awareness campaigns.
And Mr. Shivamaya,
Yes.
in the past, we started this time having all the different partnerships with all the municipalities in Dallas County. Do you expect the same amount of municipalities? Have we moved this already? Where are we?
Yes, in my forthcoming slide I'll show you, but to answer your question, yes, the same municipalities, we've already started that process. I'll show you in a couple of slides, I'll show you those municipalities.
Good.
But the first part is the surveillance effort. We have deployed those gravet traps to address the West Nile. 675 gravet traps, and then we have 132 unique locations. Those are plotted in the map for you. Yes.
Some of the municipalities that do not have traps, for example, I'm just noticing Richardson and Mesquite, are they then doing their own program?
That's right. There are different cities that have their own trap settings. I've listed over here what we do.
Okay, and so then you share information?
Yes. Those if they do find those mosquito samples, it's sent to our lab for testing.
Thank you.
Yeah. If you go to the next slide, that tells you that we have tested 375 mosquito pools. We've not found any positives as of now, which is good news. If you go back to that slide, I just wanted to show a code. That's on the right-hand side of that slide is the is what a gravity trap looks like.
While we found no positive draft, how many abundance brands have we found?
Nothing that has come to our notice. We really not found abundance as of now, yes. Yeah. So far, so good. We go to the next one. Of course, we have not sprayed because there were no positives as of now. And then coming back to what Commissioner Garcia had asked us, we, alongside in these efforts, we are also engaging the municipalities in terms of all our efforts. So one of the meetings we did conference calls with all the municipalities was addressed on April 2nd. And basically, we got all our partnering municipalities together. We basically wanted to go over the integrated mosquito control plan, wanted to make sure all the partners are on the same page, and we're going to continue doing this. So as soon as we find the first positive traps identified, we're going to get back on a conference call, make sure that everybody's informed, and then we'll begin our process of sending out these press releases based on where the the positive mosquito traps are, and as well as what the spraying efforts will be to abate those.
With the same process?
Same process. Nothing changes, really.
In the, I'd love to see how many traps we have set in the unincorporated areas.
Okay. We can include that in the next.
Need to.
Absolutely.
And when I say unincorporated, where we have populations primarily.
Yes.
I mean, if you got some others, that's fine. I don't know what the cost is per trap, but some of us have subdivisions, the Bear
Yes.
Creek area, Cleaver, Raleigh, and those are our areas. So, okay.
Absolutely.
And you are working with Mr. Grace and
Yes.
all the people working on that. Okay, sounds good.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We need to have those traps as well.
Yeah, we can do that. We can show it in the next presentation. And then, of course, the final piece is we are continuing the awareness campaigns. We are sending information out, different ways of transmitting that information, and I've just listed a host of those modalities.
And I know you got a lot of issues. Let's see, can we get this to the court a little earlier than the handout today?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, we do it in two, Commissioner, we'll definitely do that. We send something out on Friday, because that information keeps changing.
Okay.
And we want to get the latest information to court. But thank
Sure.
you.
But if you can put it, even if it's Friday before Commissioner's Court, I would like to see it in advance.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
They said
I have an
something Friday,
idea
but he said he had it.
how we're moving, and thank you for doing everything in English and Spanish as well.
Of course,
Appreciate
no.
it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Right, we got other presentations as well. Commissioner Price, you put judicial management and.
The whole judicial management piece, I will refer to the next time.
We got Dallas County Office of Information.
Technology, Chairwoman Daniels and all of us met yesterday and conferred along with staff in this issue. I do want to commend, it appears as though we did get the report that, the plan that we had been promised, and we'll share that with our colleagues in regards to that plan. But it appears as though we're forging in the right direction, and with that meeting, 2-hour meeting yesterday, an hour and a half, we seem to begin to at least address some issues. There's some others that I still want to address, but the chair and staff, we did that. So don't need to take up the court's time today.
All
I'm
right.
going to keep it out there till we get to
Sure.
something.
When will we be able to see the report or the minutes?
I'll give it to you after this meeting. Yeah, today.
Okay, today?
Yes.
That'll be great. I mean, and it will be posted for all of us to know when the meetings take care.
Specifically regarding, this is specifically regarding the CJIS, the criminal justice information, and our plans to prepare for that audit, which will be coming at the end of the year. So I'll get you that report, and I'll get with Dr. Daniel and Commissioner Price and flush that out and we need to put a little more meat on the bone before I give it to you guys, so it explains exactly what the steps are, so
Well, actually, putting it together with the report that already had been generated adds a lot of substance to what the steps that are going to be followed.
Sounds good? I
Well,
look forward to seeing.
let me just say that the report I got was clear in terms of it, so, okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
And
yeah. Budget, let's go.
Budget got
let's
moved,
go
right?
budget. Yeah, and, but I do appreciate, kind of that salvo being out there. It's given us the opportunity to, and by the way, let me, welcome, Mike Griffin back to
Yes.
the,
That's right.
to the, I don't know what I'm welcoming you back to, but welcome back. We've already pushed out and began to deal, yesterday was his first day with issues, regarding everything from budget to security to campuses. So he's come back with his hands full, so.
And he's happy to be back, Commissioner Price.
And there was a lot of
I thought that
information in the
we met
agenda today addressing juvenile personnel, the programs going on, so there's a lot of good movement. Welcome, glad you're here.
I don't know about the good move, but there's a lot of stuff going on.
Well,
Okay.
there's a lot of stuff on the agenda related to juvenile.
Yeah, okay.
next we have the consent agenda. Is there a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. We have bids today. Is there a motion on the bids?
Are we okay on all those other issues, Mr. Price? Okay. I'll move the bid award. Swan.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have court orders, and we have a speaker on one of the court orders. And we're going to pull several, including the one the speaker's on, for separate votes. Is there a motion on court orders K1 through 45 and addendum 46, pulling 8, 11, and 17 for separate votes?
Josh, can you repeat the ones that you're pulling?
8, 11, and 17.
Yeah, it's just three. And that being the case, I'll move the rest of them.
Second.
All right. Is there any discussion on the non-pulled court orders?
On court order 33, I don't know if I pushed that over to anyone, that's that interpreter services. I thought we talked about something in jail population in regards to this, and these are the video services and all. How does that impact this contract? I know you weren't there, Mr. Price, but we talked about it in jail pop. So does it impact this certified on-site interpreter services?
It doesn't directly impact it in the sense that it is a phone service that's going down into Austin and doing the interpretation for the misdemeanor courts and those activities that they can do that for. It will have a cost impact savings for us, which obviously is part of this, but since this is just for those services of the languages generally outside of Spanish, it shouldn't have a major impact.
We still will have the services, nothing would change as far as the translation
We'll
services.
continue to have the on-site Spanish speakers for the 4 to 6 hours a day. We will continue to have this for those unique languages, and then we'll also have the opportunity to use the phone service.
I didn't quite understand that presentation on Friday that way.
The judge will be able to make a determination how they would like to handle their interpreter services. Certain things will require on-site. There are many of the other things that the specific will be able to do that will be through the telephone service, which is, that was I agree completely with Pat, deserves credit for that. And there will be a couple $100,000 savings as
Yeah.
but we spend over $1.6 billion in interpreter services.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
there will still be plenty of money spent on these other options.
Well, I understand, that's mine, and I did get something, I've got someone coming over. I'm not gonna pull it, like I said, I moved it, but I do expect to see some impact.
Yes.
In terms of some savings.
Continue to monitor that and specifically call that out so you can see what that savings is.
Okay, okay.
I have a question of clarification for number 9, and this is regarding the information sharing between Mansfield ISD and Duncanville ISD. How does that impact us?
What they now do is what Dallas County Schools did, and what they've done, that's on the tech share side. And what Dallas County Schools was doing, they picked up our piece over on the juvenile side of it.
They're filing their own cases because those actually have their own police departments as a result of the changes that occurred, and so this is just to allow them to be able to file the case into the DA's office.
Okay, thank you.
And on item 43, the contract for food catering services for the older adult nutrition program, cancellation of all bids. Mr. Price, can you elaborate what happened?
Commissioner, I can answer the question, because I asked staff to cancel that solicitation. When I looked at the solicitation on pages 22 through 33, there were 11 pages of requirements that asked for a lot of things that suggest we're buying more than simply a good, more than food. We're also buying a slew of services. For example, we want the services to allow for the community elders to come together for nutritional meals, education and recreational programs. We asked for a certain kind of dietitian. And when I reviewed the solicitation and realized it was just a bid, I thought perhaps we can do a better job because we're acquiring both the good, the food, and also service. And that suggests to me when you're acquiring a service, it's an evaluation criteria you're looking at. And I talked to Mr. Price and staff and said, look, why don't we put this back and make it an RFP since we're asking for certain qualifications.
Okay.
In addition to that, I also talked with SBE, but primarily my concern was we're asking for a service, I'm using a bid rather than an evaluation.
Okay, gotcha.
I just wanted to put on the record recognition that order number 16, there had been a question about our CGIS work that's going to be going on, and that this is a system logging software that was anticipated to be of need, and we're already considering these kinds of things in line to keep us on track for the being in.
Well, yeah, with all due respect, software doesn't do it, management does.
Oh, absolutely, but that means management is looking out to see what kind of tools they're going to be needing.
I can give you a crescent wrench, but you can't change a flat. But okay, that's all no story.
But you know what, one point, Commissioner Price, I read in the jail sanitation minutes that we still on Windows 7 for some of the
Although
programs.
you really don't want to go there with me this morning, because I blew up on that yesterday. You're exactly right. Oh, and we went down that road
I
yesterday.
didn't know it existed anymore. I thought we were over
Oh, it is prevalent. Don't go there.
There's also something to be said.
It is
that
true,
when
right?
you're
It is true.
transitioning-
It is true.
And that's why.
Well, that's what, that when you're transitioning, that your operating system affects not only what you're doing absolutely right here, but there are a lot of other connections that have to be related to it, so that,
Hardware is antiquated.
well, but also what you're doing is creating the systems of communication with other types of entities that transition to 10 has been ongoing and will continue.
Yeah.
Believe me, there's a ton of stuff.
Well, I don't think I could work with the Windows 7.
Well,
That's right.
most of our
Actually
important.
expediting that,
That's
probably because of the
Yeah,
CGIS.
priorities
That's
have to be.
part of
Good.
it.
Okay, glad to hear that we're slowly moving.
Yeah.
But moving, progressing.
And when the 10's only been out though for.
You see how I do read whatever you're doing, Commissioner?
Yes, I don't know about you, but I don't move to the new ones quickly because of all the changes that it forces each one of us to make in our habits.
Okay.
Yeah.
That being said, go ahead.
Back on 43 for a second, what I've been told on 43 is, and San Antonio or in Bexar County when this was done, they were able to find a minority or a small business enterprise that could do that work, and that business grew into a larger business. And so that's an opportunity to perhaps bring in a SB Prime, which is a good thing. A challenge will be to make sure that in doing that, we don't dramatically increase the price of those meals. If the price goes up a little bit for the food to be a little bit better, I eat that food with our older adults, and I can tell you the food needs to taste a little bit better for them. But that'll be our challenge as we do that, is keeping price reasonable and hopefully perhaps improving on the taste of that just a little bit.
Call the question.
All right, question has been called. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Court order A-K8 is before us, Town of Sunnyvale, continuation. I move it.
Second. It's been moved and seconded. There is a speaker. We've already had the rules of decorum. Mayor Jim Fopp. Good morning, Mayor.
Honorable Judge, Commissioners, good morning. My name is Jim Fopp, and I'm the Mayor of Sunnyvale. I appreciate this opportunity to speak for you.
Sure.
This increase of over $700,000 to the annual contract with DSO was first communicated to the town of Sunnyvale on the day that we approved our 2018 budget and tax rate. And since that time, we've been seeking an explanation, a breakdown of the allocation of dispatch costs that have been assigned to the town of Sunnyvale. We've worked with the Sheriff's Department, and they can't help us either. They can't make sense of it. And we respectfully request, before you implement this, that someone from the budget office or the county sit down with our staff so we can properly understand how the allocation of the dispatch costs were made, so that we can justify it to our citizens in Sunnyvale, who happen to also be citizens and taxpayers in Dallas County.
Can you hang on? And this doesn't count against your time.
Sure.
But have we not already pulled this once?
Yep, I pulled it once.
So then it's been out there for a month.
And hold on, Judge. I've met with the mayor. I've met with their new interim city manager. I've gone back with the information that they had gleaned from the Sheriff's Department. I've took the process, vetted that information, sent it back out to the town of Sunnyvale. Population, Sunnyvale, in the unincorporated area, Sunnyvale has 6,194 people, 45%. In the unincorporated area, we have 7,500, the other 55%, of the 13,694 individuals. Of that, fire and EMS calls, total calls last year, 1,310. Of that, 753 were Sunnyvale, 57%. And we're charging them 31% of the staff. They have 57% of the call. And it's very clear in the system. You know, I dealt with no sooner than the mayor and the interim manager brought it down. I talked to communications. I talked to budget. I said, these are the numbers they've been given. We went back. We could not validate those numbers. We pulled down the real numbers. And once we did that, I gave it.
Okay. And I want you to give your presentation. We're going to give you ample time. By me asking you questions, you're actually going to get a little bit more time. But I'm just, from your perspective, so you've heard that, the information that you received, how long have you all had that?
We've had it since October of last year.
Yeah. So a year.
Yeah, and we don't quite get to the same conclusions that Commissioner Price does.
Okay.
And we haven't had it explained to the detail. Pardon me, Commissioner Price, Mr. Daniels indicated me in your meeting last week he didn't receive that kind of explanation either. If I've misunderstood it, I apologize.
No, I sent it to him. I sent it out there.
Gave it to me a year ago?
Yeah, no. Ryan, After I met with the mayor and the interim manager, did I not call you and Mr. Weatherly in?
You did call me in. You inquired exactly how we came about the allocation for the dispatch costs as it relates to the town of Sunnyvale. The allocation is that it's 2 positions of the 6 positions that we staff on a 24/7 basis. The information that was provided by the sheriff's office was pulled out of a system and then manually tried to adapt to differentiate between town of Sunnyvale activities and other activities. It's not accurate, but that's something we can continue to work for. The town of Sunnyvale has been aware that we don't longer want to provide the police and dispatch services for many years.
Right.
And that is the underlying issue, is we've acknowledged that at this point in time, they need to bring on their own police department, they need to bring on their own dispatch function, and they continue.
That may be your opinion or others' opinion, but the opinion that matters is the opinion of the Commissioners Court.
But that has been the prevailing opinion.
The majority of the Commissioners Court has not expressed or written to Sunnyvale that we don't want to provide service.
You better go back and look at your record. No, we did that. Yes, we have.
That have been written by the Commissioners Court, and I certainly expressed to you multiple times that I was conveying that message to the town of Sunnyvale with nobody at the junction saying they didn't want us to do that.
For today, though, I think the question before us in passing this order, I understand his whether, I'm not saying I agree with the concern, but I understand the concern expressed is he feels that he needs information, and I'm trying to understand, given that we gave you information a year ago, what is this information that, without getting into who should provide what police work, because we're going to vote today to continue providing service, whether or not to continue to provide service, so the majority will rule on that. But as far as your question, you're saying you didn't get something, but I'm hearing that you got something a year ago, and then Commissioner Price went to the extra steps of going through it again and again and getting it back to you here recently. So what's missing?
We haven't reached the same level of understanding of the allocation of the data that Commissioner Price expressed, and that's the gap.
But you have the data, right?
We have the data, but we don't read it that way. And that's why we'd like an explanation in detail with the staff. And I'm really not trying to buy time or anything else. It's an honest situation for us.
Mayor, you have known this for some time. I've talked to the last 2 city managers and you guys. I said, dispatch Ryan out there. Look, what it really means is the rest of our taxpayers are underwriting Sunnyvale. That's what it basically means. Because while you're paying for 2 of those 6 in terms of direct, there's a lot of things that are not in this calculation.
Commissioner Price, as I said, we want to pay what's our responsibility. Don't want to pay anything more, but we want to pay all of our responsibility. We just can't get to the same level of recognition.
Well, I understand, but that's, this is where, budget, communications, I took the data you gave me, so you didn't understand it then. I took it, we called it, and we came up with the same information.
And all we're asking is that somebody from the county sit down with our staff and explain it to them to the level of detail that you seem to have and understand.
Mayor, you've had the data for how long now? A year?
Since October, yes, sir.
Okay. And has there ever been a time when you asked to sit down with the Sheriff's Department or with the Budget Office that they refused to sit down with you, or y'all schedules hadn't?
We've sat down with the Sheriff's Department several times, and they can't come to the same understanding either.
Are you saying the Budget Office is refusing to meet with you?
No, I'm not saying that. We just never worked out a time where they could be. Ryan and I had communication during the month of December, but we asked for some additional explanations. And the final message I got was, this is the way it's been decided.
Well, so I'm just trying to understand from the standpoint of we're voting today. It's been pulled already once. There's been at least a month that people have known that it's going to be voted on. Is there a reason why this meeting that y'all want to have could not have happened before today? Has somebody been out of town? Has somebody been in the hospital? What's the reason for not having the meeting and getting your information?
We had a gap in town managers. We terminated our town manager, in January. There was a gap there. When we were supposed to be trying to confirm this with you, we brought on our interim town manager, Mr. Daniels, who Commissioner Price knows well.
When did he come on?
He came on board in March.
Okay. Well,
So
And-
would there be a benefit in a conversation?
I'm just trying to make the ring clear.
Be more than glad to explain to them, but I mean, the data's pretty simple.
Well, but how you gonna explain-
It consists of two individuals, 24/7, so a total of 10 positions, plus an indirect cost, which is our standard that we charge them half their indirect cost. And so that's what it is.
But how are you going to explain anything else than what I've explained?
Get any more information as it relates to direct data that says that this is the total number of calls other than what has already been provided. That they won't get. I mean, I can explain to them how the costing comes from, and I'm fairly certain the town of Sunnyvale knows that they can't run a dispatch center with 2 positions in it anyway. So it's still going to be less than it's going to cost them to operate their own dispatch center when they get around to doing so.
We're not disputing the accuracy of the data whatsoever.
Okay.
Okay.
So what?
Then what?
We can't get to the same conclusion that Commissioner Price and Ryan seem to have.
Okay, well, and that's that happens, right? Sometimes two people hear the same stuff and they come to different conclusions, and that's completely understandable. It seems to me that the information and the way Ryan is calculating is pretty, simple and straightforward, right? There's 6 positions. They're assigning 2 to the town of Sunnyvale. They looked at the number of calls that they had, around 1,100. They looked at the number of calls that went to Sunnyvale, around 1,300?
1,300, 753 went to Sunnyvale.
Yeah, so they looked at those numbers, and that's the calculation.
7%.
Would it help you to take 10 minutes to talk once again to Mr. Brown, and us take this out of order and go to the next thing? I want to give you whatever you're asking for, but it sounds like to me that the information's out there. It's just there's a disagreement between Sunnyvale and Budget Office and what they're presenting as to how much this should cost. Is that fair?
I don't think there's a disagreement. I think there's a lack of common understanding.
Okay.
And I don't think explaining the situation to me is going to help, because I'm not the numbers guy that needs to be satisfied. It's our staff, our team on the finance team, and our management team led by Mr. Daniels that needs to understand. And no matter how you vote today, we would still like to have that meeting. Okay. Because this represents a 15% increase to our annual budget.
So would you mind then if we voted today and then you had a meeting? Because here's our rules. See, our rules allow anything to be pulled for 2 weeks.
Sure.
To be looked at. And Commissioner Price has already pulled us for 2 weeks, probably
And we
because you
appreciate
had
that very
questions,
much.
right, Commissioner Price? And went through the information, as he said, got it back to you. So that delay has happened. Now, the only way we can have a delay of another 2 weeks or longer is 2 ways. We could vote down the order, which I don't know where the court is, but I would guess they're not inclined to do that.
Sure.
Or the court could unanimously vote to delay this yet again. But if you know you want the services, but you're unsure that you're being charged correctly, would you be opposed to us voting on this today and then Mr. Brown meeting with you after today?
We wouldn't be opposed to that as long as, under one request, if we reach a mutual understanding that the numbers are not correct, they should be allocated differently, we can bring it back to the court.
If you reach a mutual understanding, I'm sure Mr. Brown bring that back and.
Not a problem.
Okay. I think the only other request we have is this. We received notice of this significant increase, again, on the very day that we were voting on our budget and tax rate. We'd request any kind of significant change to the contract be communicated to us on a much earlier basis in the future.
That sounds fair to the extent that
Well,
we can.
I would say that we would hope that there wouldn't have to be a contract in the future. That y'all will do what others.
And I think we've communicated that we have an intention to do so in the next 5 years. Yes, sir.
Well, but I did that, I dropped that to you over 5 years ago. I know you may have not been mayor, but over 5 years ago, Mr. Brown has been at those meetings. And I've said this probably for the last 10 years, even before you were in my district. So it's been a whole decade that we've been talking about this. And you guys even hired the individual that was part of that delegation to, you know, be your, I guess, public safety person, and he didn't last long.
I'm lost on that one. I don't think we've ever hired anybody like that.
Oh, yeah, you did.
Russell Jacks.
Yeah, you did.
Russell Jacks, yeah, but we hired him in a non-public safety role.
Good.
That's for another day.
Yeah, I've interrupted you. Go ahead and finish your.
That's all I have. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much, sir.
Call the question.
All right.
Move it, Commissioner.
No, I haven't moved.
So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
I move, quote number 8, 11.
11.
Right? Second. Is anyone going to
The
second?
texture.
The, I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? I abstain.
I abstain.
All right. Next order before us is 17. Is there a motion on 17?
So moved.
Second.
And any discussion on?
I have a question on this one. This project that we have here for the amount of $2,146,622, it's, if I understood correctly, it's a texture prosecutor, texture court, and other system internal and integral to be operations for the development and accomplishment of leveraging the methodology to deliver release 1 of software within 12 months through a series of 2-week sprints. Release 2 is planned for completion by end of the month 18. And to keep pace with this schedule, which is 18 months, Sogeti, which is a diversional company that is working now with Texture, has formed 5 feature development teams, 3 onshore and 2 offshore, who will be working collaboratively around the clock. So let me see, Mr. Victor, did I understood this correctly? So we're going to form 2 teams, one offshore where? And the other one inshore, working around the clock. For me, that tells me around the clock is 24 hours a day. Can you explain this? Because goodness gracious, no wonder it's costing me $2 million and $146,000.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know if Craig is actually here, but the...
Mr. Morrissey is in the back.
Yeah, we'll ask Craig to come up. I think that what they talked about being offshore is that they basically have development resources that are actually, I think, in Bangalore, India, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, Sogeti is an international company.
Oh, I know, it's a diversion international company. So we hire Sogeti, to form teams, and one is in India, and that's what includes the traveling prices, right? Can you elaborate, Mr. Morrison? I don't know if I understood it correctly.
The travel, no, the travel has nothing to do with the teams in India.
Okay.
So and this is based on the proposal that the court approved on December 19th. The structure of the Sogeti proposal, Dallas County IT, we really didn't have a whole lot of influence in that. So to explain, though, there are a total of 5 feature teams, 3 onshore and 2 offshore. And when we say that those teams are working around the clock, you'll have 3 teams operating here in the continental United States. They're actually here in Texas, and 2 teams in India. Due to the time difference, there is 24-hour development ongoing.
So that's what you mean, around the clock.
Right.
When they're sleeping, we're working, and vice versa.
That's it. Yes,
Okay, well, that's a good one.
Yes. Is that okay? Any other
Well,
questions?
you say that there's no traveling expenses here, but there's a travel description with the amount, of airfare, hotel, ground transportation, meals, mileage. Is that only here? Because looking at all these numbers, I just don't understand then for what you're telling me, this is here in the United States.
Yes, ma'am. What I was saying was that those travel costs have nothing to do with the teams in India. They have to do with our team here locally traveling to Austin there are, I believe, Mark, 2 or 3 conferences. there's two conferences per year that we're trying to get out to so we can network with other counties and other organizations who are, to get insight into leading-edge technologies that are being used in this space.
So what you're saying is that the texture courts and the texture prosecutor, with these teams offshore and within our state, are going to create this development project within 18 months.
That's what the proposal said. So, and this is specific
But
to
wait
the
a minute,
texture
we're
jail.
1 year behind on texture courts. So
Different
are you
project,
going to
different
be
technology.
able to, I just want to be sure that we'll put another $2 million on this and that it will be on time, because so far we haven't.
So I can't guarantee that, right? This wasn't our proposal. We are working to try to implement the proposal
So
approved by
this
this court.
proposal comes from Segeti now,
Yes. Sajeti
which
and the
we
Conference
just
of Urban
hired
Counties.
them, like you say,
If it-
Mr.
if-
Victor, at
if
the
I-
beginning of the
excuse me.
year.
Yes, ma'am. If I
And
could.
these $2 million that now Segeti wants to use to
Yes, ma'am.
develop courts
No,
And,
this
and
is jail.
improve texture,
Yes,
and
ma'am.
jail and
This is jail.
texture.
Yes, ma'am. This particular proposal is actually, the court basically approved in December of 2017, the actual, the development resources cost for Sogeti was to the CUC. So those dollars basically went out to them to go to actually start the project. These dollars are actually for the implementation, or the development and implementation resources that we typically need on the county side to go through and actually continue to move the project, just as we've done with some of the, with the other texture projects. These project costs are for the county side resources for those, for that initiative.
So this will staff our team here locally.
Okay, and this was already money included within the whole project, or is additional money
Now,
that,
If I go back and read the actual initial brief, ma'am, to start this particular project, it said that the monies that were typically, that were for the first initial outlay, that were monies that were going out the door to the CUC and Sogeti. The additional dollars that typically would be briefed for the county side resources for development and implementation. And this is that particular brief.
Let me ask you a question on this. Before hiring Sogeti, the work that's going to be done by foreign folks in wherever, India or wherever it is we're going to get that done, was that work that we were using people here in Dallas County to do before that?
They weren't here in Dallas County. This is a very different structure from previous
I
projects.
understand, but in
Yeah.
the previous structure, where were the folks?
In Austin, at the Development Center in Austin.
So I'm just curious because I'm hearing all of these opinions about how undocumented immigrants are destroying the fabric of our society, and the people that work here in Dallas, they pay taxes and they do things that are helpful in our community. I'm wondering if I'm going to hear those same voices stand up and defend their concerns about jobs being offshored to India. And, I'm guessing that,
Any Dallas County workers.
I'm guessing I'm not going to
sorry?
do that.
This isn't replacing any Dallas County workers.
No.
at all.
Replacing Austin workers?
Well, I guess,
Not specifically. no.
really, actually, the Austin workers were absorbed into the Sogeti organization for the most part.
Yeah,
And
another
now-
question I
and
had,
then- yeah.
the Austin workers that you're absorbing, I've noticed that they're being absorbed at a much higher salary for themselves than what they were making as public servants. How does that square?
Can't speak to that, sir. I don't know what their salaries are, but that's not my understanding. And speaking with those folks, in fact, I think they're taking a little bit of a pay cut going to Sogeti, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, it is. And, okay, so we're leveraging. I mean, the fact is, I mean, you could pull that particular piece out. All it does is moves that 18-month window. What we're basically saying is that because somebody else is working while, we sleep, we're getting advantages of it. We'd probably pay the same, we just expand it out.
And the point I'm making is that the voices that are upset about people in our community working are not going, and I'm talking about the people on this dais, but they're not going to complain about people in another country doing work that could be done by Americans.
Well,
They're going to focus on the
yeah,
people
I
that don't look like them that live in their town.
Well, hell, you can say the same thing about call centers and American Express and all the rest of that stuff. But I mean, I don't want to mix it too. This is a contract that we're trying to provide a service to our citizens in a way that we can better manage. And again, like I said, take the back end out, it just moves 18 months out. And that's the so-called quote offshore.
Yeah, or use Americans at night, and that raises the price. And so the people that complain about the people in our community who are undocumented, who do all the, who are mowing their yards and fixing their food at restaurants, are not going to complain about this. They're going to say this is a good business.
Okay, you made that point.
But again, we would like to just denote that this particular request to the Commissioners Court is to identify people on the county side that basically are doing that work. And we envision that these particular folks that are on this particular request will be local, will be obviously people that will be local in the county.
So, I mean, I'm not going to go into the whole, around the clock thing when it comes to cost, but my concern is that here we are adding another layer of intricacy after we just hire a company that's supposed to do this kind of projects, and we never were told that we were going to be to this path. And I just hope, Mr. Bickstrom, Mr. Morrissey, that this is really 18 months, because anything else has not been. That's my point.
Yes,
Thank
ma'am.
you.
Call the question.
And in the meantime, I really want to get out of, World 7. I mean,
Out of what?
We all want these
Windows
projects
7.
Call question.
We all want these projects completed.
Okay.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any abstentions? I abstain. Commissioner Garcia?
No, she said aye.
I'm going to abstain.
Yeah. Okay, you did vote. Okay. All right. That takes us to, I know we've got a couple more speakers, but do we have anything else? Nope, that takes us to our final group of speakers. And let me see who we've got left here. Let's see. Ms. Desiree Howard.
You put me as an absent.
Ms. Desiree Howard. Ms. Desiree Howard. Mr. Emmanuel Lewis. Come on forward.
Hi, my name is Emmanuel Lewis, 1909 Anderson Street, Irving, Texas. And the issue that I'd like to speak about today and get into public record is the desperate, great need to help and provide help for homeowners, especially when they are in crisis. I've been a homeowner in Irving, Dallas County for 13 years, and when folks get in crisis, there's not a lot of help or assistance for them. If they're a renter, there's tons of help and tons of assistance out there. For people that are real estate fraudsters, for folks that are serial home flippers, they know that once a homeowner is in crisis, that clock starts to tick, and there's nowhere for them to turn. And in Texas, we learned a lot from Harvey, the hurricane, in that crisis. Folks in those homes down there are being foreclosed on. The secret of Texas is out. 1,200 folks come to Texas each and every day. And I hope that you guys consider this and have resolutions and take up assistance for homeowners, possible solutions add some fees to all these developers coming in. If you look at, I recently spoke with a police chief, most over in Irvin. Most of the folks that are police, they've been there for 20 years or more. They're near retirement age. So when we have all these development, all these new homes, all these apartments, there's no way that we can afford it all. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And Judge, I'm not going to, I cannot talk to you, Mr. Lewis, in this setting, but Mr. Lewis has been working with our office, and he's right. There's very little resources for homeowners that are victims of any kind of either fraud or identity theft, which is his case. And while we've been trying to look into some resources, we haven't been able to find any specific resource to help him. We are trying to talk to some of the financial institutions, and I really want to thank him. He's been, we've been trying to find, and I say we because our office has been trying to help him as much as we have been able to. So anyway, I think this is an issue that some of our higher elected officials, our congressmen and congresswomen should be looking into, in a way that aids some of these homeowners that there are very little resources for right here in Dallas County, and that they're going to go through a struggle to try to clear the fraud or the identity theft. That is going to take some time. So thank you, Mr. King.
Thank you.
Thank you. And our last speaker is Mr. Carlos Torres. Good morning, sir.
Hello, buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Carlos Torres. Estoy aquí el día de hoy de parte del proyecto Defensa Laboral. Continuando nuestra petición para que el condado,
Are you going to translate for him?
No. And you can have more time to translate because I want to know what he's saying.
Yes.
So go ahead.
Okay. Los trabajadores, el condado requiera 10 horas de capacitación de OSHA básico para los trabajadores y 30 horas de capacitación de OSHA para todos los supervisores de la seguridad en sus proyectos. Lo que a mí me pasó es un buen ejemplo de por qué todos los trabajadores necesitan capacitación de OSHA. Yo me caí cuando yo estaba trabajando. Porque se me quebró. Ya me equivoqué. Sorry. Sí. Se reventaron los cordones del harness y me lastimé la espalda. Me batallo mucho para seguir adelante por todos estos problemas. Desafortunadamente he tenido muchos problemas con la compañía. No me han ayudado. Ellos se lavaron las manos. Apenas ellos dijeron que estaba despedido. Capacitación de OSHA, compensación laboral y dueños responsables pueden evitar los problemas que hoy sufro ahora de requerir capacitación de OSHA a los proyectos del condado de Dallas. No quiero que pase a otros lo que a mí me pasó. Gracias.
Gracias. Okay, can you translate for us, ma'am?
Good afternoon. My name is Carlos Torres. I am here today on behalf of Workers' Defense Project, continuing our ask to call upon the county to raise their construction standards, beginning with requiring OSHA Safety 10 training for all workers and OSHA 30 for safety supervisors on county construction projects. What happened to me is a prime example of why all workers need OSHA training. I fell when I was working because the cords of my harness snapped. I injured my back. Now I am battling to push forward through these problems. Unfortunately, I have had a lot of problems with the company. They haven't helped me. They washed their hands of it. I recently found out that they fired me. OSHA safety training, workers' comp, and responsible owners can help mitigate the problems I am suffering. It is time to require OSHA safety training on Dallas County projects. I do not want this to happen to others. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we got a quick question. Mr. Torres, he doesn't work on a Dallas County project, does he?
¿Usted trabaja en los proyectos del condado de Dallas?
No. Okay, yeah, gracias. Thank you.
And Mr. Bazan, we do require OSHA training in all our contracts
We do.
and workers.
The private sector is mandated to comply with OSHA. So if the county's doing business in all of our contracts, it states must comply with OSHA standards.
And on our record project now, they're doing 10 and 30, correct?
They can do 10 or 30 or the equivalent of. So obviously your contractor is a very large vendor. They have a very robust, very rigorous safety program. They do 10, 30 plus.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
That concludes, Gordon points out that one of the speakers came back in. Apparently Gordon wants to hear things. Can you come on down? Ms. Desiree Howard. Doing good. You?
I'm good, thank you. Would you like me to state my name and my address?
Yes, name and address, and then go for it.
All right. My name is Desiree Howard. My address is 2421 South Carrier Parkway, Grand Prairie, Texas, 75051. So I'm in Dr. Garcia's district. Go ahead.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, normally I try to just go, but I'm going to read from the paper. This is a follow-up. I spoke here in June of 2017 of last year, and I've made numerous calls to try to get myself added to the agenda, but I guess because I'm not a part of some entity or resource here in the community, I haven't been allowed to be added, which would allow you all to engage in dialogue and questions with me, is my understanding from the last time I'm here. So I'm just go ahead and go into this. I returned today as a follow-up for the subject I spoke about in June of 2017. It has been suggested that the Commissioners' meeting is not the appropriate platform to address my concerns. I beg to differ. The Commissioners' Court is the designated government body elected that serves both the executive and legislative duties. It is the responsibility of the Commissioners' Court and Board to ensure local ordinances and budgets are proposed, passed, and enacted. I understand that I'm not a part of a local entity or business which would have expedited the numerous calls or requests that I have made to be added to the agenda. In doing so, it would allow you all to engage with a conversation with me. Excuse me, y'all, I'm a little nervous again. I'm speaking as a voice, as I did last year, in regard to community citizens that are domestic violence victims and survivors. Commissioners, I am a prime example, considering my circumstances back in June of 2017, of why there is a permanent need for additional resources for domestic violence victims and our families. You are dealing with finances and how they are delegated for the proposed expenses. Our community is in need of resource expansion. Although we have several agencies that assist with victims, it isn't enough. The turnaround time for domestic violence victims to get assistance through these resources, like the Family Place, the Genesis Shelter, among others, sometimes can be 2 to 3 weeks. That is a resource assistance with protective orders that the District Attorney's Office can and will not help with if there are mitigating circumstances. If I may, the head District Attorney, Faith Johnson, during her interview on Fox 4 News, stated
that in special circumstances with special cases, special prosecutors can be assigned to assist with that process. My question to you all, considering that you do work closely with them and that finances are delegated for certain projects regarding domestic violence victims here in Dallas County, is what constitutes and what defines a special circumstance? It's my understanding that a victim is a victim and we'll all need assistance. I'm almost done. In closing, Dr. Daniel, I would like to thank you. The last time that I was here, although I don't reside in your district, you were very attentive in listening to what it was that I had to say. Mr. Contrell, Commissioner Contrell is not here today, so I'm not going to address that. Judge Jenkins, I'd like to thank you for at least engaging or trying to ask me questions related to my concerns, although the chair here, or whatever they do, said that you could not. Mr. John Wiley Price, Commissioner Price, I've known you since I was a little girl. My grandmother and my father was raised in Oak Cliff, so way before I even understood your capacity, sir, you've been revered as our voice. And although I don't reside in your district, sir, there's a need in your community, primarily with minorities, that circulate around why I was here last year. We're the ones being affected by it. I'm closing. Dr. Garcia, I'd like to thank you for having your office reach out to me yesterday. I would like to note that since beginning in June of 2017, aside from the one conversation I had with Mr. Brooklove, you all made no effort or attempt to assist me with my concern back then. But if you would like to address any concerns that I have, is the high minority rate of citations being given in Grand Prairie.
In overtime, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and so that concludes our last speaker. We're going to adjourn for closed session to consider matters under Chapter 551 of the Government Code as previously posted. Any action on that will take place in the subsequent open session. Yeah, get to that for the close.
There's no reason not.
Well, the letter said that revert back after the 12th. Well, and we know Garcia
Sorry.
Well, let them finish closed and visible.
Oh, it's not, I'm not asking for an interview. I'm just Don't take a shit. Oh, your concerns.
We're going to talk to Who's a commissioner over in Tarrant County, who has a background in computer stuff. And do you have anything you take back from the house? One of the commissioners in Tarrant County. They're in the same program that we are.
Okay. So you don't want to talk to me?
I'm talk to him. He's got, I'm not a computer expert by any stretch.
Okay.
So when I voted against that, we're going to dinner with the county judge, Travis County, hearing their concerns, and then getting a letter from uniformly this group of criminal court judges. What information I have about that is informed by what they tell me. They're the best people probably to talk to you about what's going on in Texas here. Criminal court judges.
Okay. I thought it was interesting what you were saying.
Yeah, I have a lot of concerns, but none of those concerns originate in my mind. They are coming to me from sources that have more knowledge than I do, judges that are working on it.
Okay. Okay, great.
So it's a start.
Okay.
Because all I'd be doing is telling you hearsay of what, what's your concern about this? Well, Judge so-and-so tells me this, and Judge so-and-so tells me that. It'd be better to talk to them.
Okay, sounds good. Thanks. Always.
Is there more in there?
That is all.
Did you adjourn? You can adjourn.
I haven't adjourned. There's still other good stuff.
Yeah. Just give me
Two.
Amy? There's still some more back there, I think. I think there's still more back there.
Oh, still more back in there with the judge?
Yeah, there are, just, we had some.
Oh, it's not in order, okay. Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Will you get them closed, Jason?
Yes, they're still in.
Oh, they're still enclosed?
Yeah, so-
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
That's the question.
Yeah, they're still enclosed. We didn't understand what was going on either, but they're still enclosed.
How's your daughter doing?